Dark Samus is born. As a young boy, you were always fascinated by the stories told by the older folks in your village. They would talk about the creatures that were once seen in the caves and on the hills, and the stories would always frighten you. However, there was one story that you always wondered about. The story of the Dark Lord, Samus, who once dwelt in the caves on the mountain and who had a mighty sword which he used to slaughter anyone who ventured too close to him. Everybody knew the Samus sword was a myth, but you always thought that perhaps the villagers saw a real Samus and got confused. When you were young, your mother would tell you that you must never go into the caves, because the Dark Lord might see you and come and get you. Of course, that was just a story, and everybody knew it. So you disregarded it. But now you find yourself at the mouth of a cave, standing in the darkness. The inside of the cave is illuminated by a pale bluish-orange light that seems to emanate from within, even though you cannot see anything inside the actual cave. Your heart is beating rapidly and you are having a hard time catching your breath. You're a little bit afraid, and you want to turn back, but you're also curious. Decision, decision, decision. What will you do? You can't run away from a monster you can't see, so you don't know what to do. This is a familiar feeling. You have no weapon, no armor, nothing, and you are standing in the open. So you have no place to hide. You are at Samus's mercy. This is a very frightening position to be in. After taking in a deep breath and calming yourself, you step forward into the cave. Trying not to stare too hard at the light inside. As your eyes adjust to the dim light, you can see that the cave leads into a tunnel that is flanked on both sides by steep rock walls. The walls are so close that you cannot help but to flinch every time a stone falls from one to the other with a loud noise. However, there is some distance between the walls and you. And you can see a massive chasm at the end of the tunnel. The cave continues to illuminate as it curves around the chasm on the other side, disappearing about halfway down. You decide to follow the light into the tunnel. As you walk along, you can feel the dampness of the rocks against your feet and the coolness of the air on your face. It feels like you are walking into a deep river, with the current of the water rushing in the opposite direction to which you are headed. As you get closer to the source of the light, you find that it comes from a torch that hangs from the ceiling of the tunnel on a metal chain. The torch is swinging slightly, and as you get closer it arcs over the chasm, landing in the tunnel beyond. The torch hangs so that its light spills out into the tunnel. And you can see that it is exactly as your grandmother had described, a tunnel that is home to a horrible monster. The beast has the body of a man, but the head of a lizard. It wears a long, black cape that reaches down to the ground, hiding all of its feet. The monster's face is best described as grotesque and malformed. It has sharp teeth that could tear through flesh, claws like that of a troll, and a tail like that of a monkey. However, the main feature that makes this creature so disconcerting is its eyes. It has 4 eyes, 2 in the sockets of its head, and 2 in the sockets of its shoulders. You estimate that the creature is about 7 feet, 2.2 meters, tall. The creature sees you looking at it, and you have to turn and run. It follows you with its eyes as you run back the way you just came, the way that you have gone down the tunnel and gone up the steep rock walls, and down the steep rock walls. You run as fast as your legs will carry you, until your lungs feel like they are about to give away. Then you slow down to a walk, and then to a stop. You are all out of breath. The creature stops also, and stares at you. You stare back. It looks like it could snap you in 2 with one paw. You decide not to run or to stop. You make a loud noise, like somebody snoring. The creature looks at you, and you snore louder. The monster laughs, and it sounds like 1,000 boulders being dropped on the floor. You begin to hyperventilate, and you turn to run. But it catches you in its claw and slaps you in the face with one of its 4 paws. In pain, you begin to scream, to beg for mercy. But it slaps you again, even harder, and you stop screaming. Then, it slaps you one more time, and you stop moving altogether. The monster steps forward, and its face is so close to yours that you can smell its fetid breath. It stares into your eyes. And it looks hungry. A rope ladder snaked down from the chasm, and you see a purple-skinned man wearing a pith helmet standing at the foot of it. He holds a long fishing rod, and when he saw the monster, he began reeling in the rope ladder. Now the ladder is drawn up, and the purple-skinned man stands at the top of it, fishing with his rod. The monster slashes the air with its claw. And the purple-skinned man jumps slightly. He says something to the monster in a language you don't understand, and the monster shakes its head rapidly from side to side. Then the purple-skinned man begins readying the rope ladder to his waist. The monster slashes its claw at the air, at the man, and the man begins climbing up the ladder. The monster reaches the top of the rope ladder, and it snarls at the purple-skinned man. The man looks scared, and he stares back at the monster. He holds the top of the rope ladder in his hands, like he is trying to defend himself against the monster. It looks like you have two choices. You can attempt to climb up the rope ladder to the purple-skinned man. Or you can climb up the wall of the chasm to the top of the rope and then swing over to the other side. You can grab the purple-skinned man when he is standing on the top rung of the ladder. Or you can try to swing over to where he is. You decide to. You climb up the rope ladder. As you approach the man standing on the top rung, you reach out for him, and he snarls at you. You turn your palm over, showing him that you are not a threat, but still he snarls at you. Then you reach up and take hold of the man, and he slips off the rung. So that now you hold both the top of the rope ladder and him. You begin to pull up on the rope ladder, to no avail, but the man is able to grab both your wrists and pull you onto his shoulders. The man is wearing a helmet, a gas mask, and thick protective clothing. He slaps you in the face repeatedly, until finally you decide that it is time to bite him. You ram your teeth into his arm. And he gives a startled cry of pain, dropping you to the ground. The man grabs his arm and tears it off. As he is holding the rope ladder in his remaining hand, he slides down the ladder. Until he is hanging from a harness on the body of the rope ladder. He swings out over the gulf and lands safely on the far side. However, the monster is still standing there, looking at you and growling. It looks like it is about to charge at you. You have no choice now, but to climb up the face of the cliff. You scramble up the wall until you can climb no further. And then you look down. The chasm is at least 100 feet, 30.5 meters, deep. There is a pile of rubble at the bottom, but the rope ladder still dangles from the top of it. You can still hear the monster out there, but it is no longer looking at you. The purple-skinned man is standing at the top of the rope ladder, fishing with his rod. He looks scared out of his wits. In the morning light, you can see that there is a narrow crack running vertically down the face of the chasm wall, from top to bottom. It is just wide enough for you to fit through. If you are going to climb out of here, now is your chance. You jump. You fly through the air, and you sail out over the gulf. Then you fall. You hit the water face first. It is freezing. You struggle to stay afloat, but the water is too deep. You are swept out to sea, and you struggle to keep your head above water. You are going to die, you know. There is nothing you can do about it. Then, the water becomes still. You stop struggling. You close your eyes. You drift off into a sleep from which you do not wake. This is where your journey ends. Beast. A warm hand closes around your feet, and you open your eyes. You are floating just above the surface of the water. You see the purple-skinned man in a wetsuit standing over you. He lifts you up and pulls you into the back of the chasm. The monster looks at the purple-skinned man, but the man speaks to it and gestures for it to follow him into the chasm. so that he can get back to fishing. The monster looks baffled at the man's request, but then it turns and walks into the chasm after the man. You are taken care of, you know that now. Nobody is going to worry about you drowning in the icy cold waters of the Arctic Ocean. You drift off to sleep in peace. When you wake up, everything is back to normal. There is no purple-skinned man. No monster, no chasm, and no storm. You are still in the ship, lying in your bunk. The ship is sailing smoothly through open water. It is daytime, and the sun is shining brightly. There is the usual metal littering smell of the ship, mixed with the salty smell of the sea. You jump up and look out the window. The sea is a brilliant blue, and you can see for miles and miles. There is no land in sight, just water and sky. You look at your watch. It is 5:30 a.m. You lie back down and pull the covers over your head. You've had a dream, but it is fading slowly. It is gone. You are not really sure what the dream was about. But it is gone. You will never know. You continue to drift off to sleep, and when you wake up, it is nighttime again, and you can see the outlines of mountains in the distance. It is the middle of the night, and you are standing on the bridge of the ship, looking out at the snow-covered mountains. Mount Erebus is the highest mountain in Antarctica. And it is covered with a thin layer of snow. The moon is out, and the sky is full of stars. There is no artificial lighting of any kind, other than that provided by the natural light of the moon and stars. This is the strangest place you have ever been. You hear a shout from the pilot box above. You look up and see the captain of the ship, a grizzled old man. He is waving madly at you. You see the call light flashing red. You run up the ladder to the pilot box. What's wrong? Alert! Alert! He screams into his microphone. What? There is a storm forming at the front. We might not make it out of here. Alert! The ship will be going down. You say. What? Say again. The ship is not equipped with an escape pod. We are slowly sinking. We need to evacuate. You look at the gauges. The oxygen gauge dips to nearly empty. The red light on the ship's emergency alarm blinks and flickers. The water temperature gauge blinks at full capacity and the pressure gauge reads 1 atmosphere. The ship's computer says there is a 85% chance that the ship will sink before the oxygen runs out. The captain looks at the ship's computer. He turns to you. There is an escape pod, stashed in the cargo hold, he shouts. I'll have to go get it. I'll go with you, you say. No. No, the captain says. I need you to keep an eye on things here. I'll be back shortly. The captain leaves and goes below to get the escape pod and to see how much oxygen is left in the air. When he comes back, he says, we have about 7 minutes of oxygen left. That's enough, you say. I'll take it. You go and make sure the ship is safe. We will make sure of that, you say. The captain walks off. You see the crew making preparations for the evacuation. The helicopter will take 6 people, but only 5 people can fit in the pod. You walk over to the crew and ask, how long will it take to evacuate the ship? We are trying to decide that now, one man says. If you want my opinion, we need to get as many people as we can into the pod, another says. There are still 3 lifeboats in the front of the ship, a third adds. I guess there is no point in taking any chances, the captain says. The lifeboats won't be of much use if the ship is sinking, another says. I agree. The captain turns to you. That's why I want you to get all the people into the pod. Can you do it? We can do it, you say. All right, I'll be back in a moment. Keep an eye on things. I will, you say, wondering what to do first. The captain leaves. You turn to the crew. I guess we should get started. An hour later, you, the captain, and the first mate are in the pilot box, preparing to eject the escape pod. We are good to go, the captain says. You start to press the eject button, when you hear the distinct sound of an alarm. The captain and the mate turn and look at you. What is it? The captain asks. I don't know. I just heard a noise. Did you all hear that? The captain asks. What is it? You ask. I don't know. Didn't you hear that? You look at the alarm. It is blaring away. But there is no flashing light or any indication of what the alarm is indicating. Eject, the captain says. You press the eject button. The emergency ejection sequence begins. It is a violent process that forces the pod away from the ship at tremendous speed. The pod shudders and the lights go out. What was that? One of the crew asks. I don't know, the captain says. Is the pod compromised? No, the captain replies. However, you know the pod has been. Captain, the pod's been compromised. You scream. What? I just ejected the pod into space. It was hit by a missile. Shit, the captain says. No, the mate says. Don't worry about it. We'll just recock the pod and use it again. We have 2 pods. The captain orders the other crew members to check the status of the pod. It's okay, the first mate says. The pod's fine. Are you sure?